Remember to turn on all notifications so you don't miss a video. I used to pray for times like this to shine like this. Themes are a very important pillar of storytelling. I've seen themes brought up in many anime videos, but not everyone is in agreement on what the theme of an anime is or how many themes it even has. However, when it comes to movies, people understand what the theme is very well. This is because they look at the climax and examine what two conflicting philosophies are pitted against each other and which one comes on top. Battle manga are skilled at executing themes like this in their arcs, so I'll make a series where I look at what the theme of each arc is from a screenwriting standpoint and highlight the evidence. I'll also give each of them a grade based on the execution. C will be if there's a theme, but the execution is off in some way. Maybe the thematic conflict wasn't present in the climax, or maybe the theme felt irrelevant to the events of the story. A will be if the theme was crystal clear, set up properly, and paid off and physically represented in the climax. B will be somewhere in the middle. The theme quote is what I'll call the line of dialogue that basically states the theme. The first story I will be looking at is One Piece. In the flashback of chapter 1, the theme is that young Luffy was not ready to be a pirate. Luffy thinks he is, Shanks thinks he's not. The theme quote is on page 44. The dangers of the sea were too great and he was not strong enough, but it's set up throughout the chapter. He drank milk, which Shanks says a pirate would never do. He wanted to get revenge against Higuma against Shanks' advice, a professional pirate. He ate a devil fruit on accident, he almost got killed, and caused Shanks to lose his arm. In the climax, his incompetence causes Shanks to suffer. Only once Luffy trains for 10 years is he ready to be a pirate. This gets an A. In the Alvida mini arc, the theme is that you should die trying to achieve your dreams. Kobe is too scared to admit to Alvida that he wants to be a pirate because he thinks he'll die. Luffy is willing to die trying to become the Pirate King. The theme quote is, "I've set myself to become the king of the pirates, and if I die trying, then at least I tried." In the climax, Kobe stands up to Alvida and Luffy beats her up. This gets an A. In the Zoro mini arc, the theme is that ruling by fear isn't effective. Axe Morgan rules his men by fear and even tells them all to shoot themselves when they disobey him. Luffy doesn't lead Kobe and Zoro like this. In the climax, Luffy and Zoro beat Alex and Helmeppo and prevent the Marines from killing themselves. His team works more effectively than Morgan's. In chapter 7, the theme quote is, "They're happy we defeated their captain," and "Captain Morgan was ruling by fear." This gets an A- because the opposing leadership styles didn't play a role in Luffy and Zoro's victory. In Orange Town, the theme is that to go against pirates, you must be prepared to risk your own life. In chapter 10, the theme quote is, "That's what you get for going up against pirates unprepared." Prepared means being prepared to risk your own life. Nami went against Luffy and Buggy and wasn't prepared to risk her life. She was too scared to kill Luffy when she was ordered to after pretending to be Buggy's ally. She switches to being prepared when she fights back against Buggy despite being surrounded. In 11, Zoro supports the theme by putting his life on the line to fight Buggy and save Luffy. This gets a B because although it's well executed so far, the theme is nowhere to be found in the climax. In Syrup Village, the theme is that Kuro's pirating style is wrong. In 38, Kuro gives his anti-theme quote, "Pirates should be faithful pawns to their captain. They live or die by my command. That's the way of the pirate." He supports his side by even attacking his own allies. In chapter 39, the theme quote is, "I'm never going to become a pirate like you." And in 38, Luffy says, "It's your style," when explaining why Kuro would lose to Usopp. This is delivered during the climactic fight between the two. Kuro's style involves threatening and harming his own men, while Luffy treats his followers with respect. Luffy wins without being like Kuro, proving his side right. This gets an A- for the same reason as the Zoro arc. Luffy and Kuro's style do have an effect on the plot, but they aren't relevant to how Luffy beats Kuro. In Baratie, the thematic conflict is grit versus weapon arsenal. The theme is grit beats weapons, and the anti-theme is weapons beats grit. Don Krieg is fighting with a large library of weapons, while Luffy is fighting with his body and grit, so the climactic fight physically represents the theme. In chapter 65, Sanji says, "It's no good, Krieg's got too much firepower," in support of the anti-theme. Zeph counters with, "In the end, it's not about weapons, grit counts more than steel." Krieg has his own quote, "I'm the world's strongest man, armed with the best equipment. That is military might. Whoever opposes me dies." Krieg keeps bringing out new weapons, but Luffy is able to win with his grit in the climax. Additionally, the symbol of military might, which was used to represent Krieg's fleet and weapons, is changed after the climax. Zeph says, "If Krieg's fleet and fancy weapons are military might, then Luffy's grit is military might too." This gets an A+. Arlong Park is rough. The closest thing to a theme I could find was when Arlong described how he treats Nami in 93 and says, "After all, we're shipmates." With extreme extrapolation, I could say that the anti-theme is you should treat your shipmates like Arlong, and the theme is you should treat your shipmates like Luffy. But Luffy doesn't have a quote representing his stance, and there is no physical manifestation of the theme during the climax. Luffy's way of treating his Nakama doesn't assist him in the climax, nor does Arlong's way backfire. If Arlong's crew at least abandoned him before or during the final fight, I could give it some points like I did with Morgan and Kuro, but that doesn't happen. His mates are as loyal as Luffy's. Sadly, I have to give this an F. There's only an anti-theme and its quote, which isn't enough. I want to give Loguetown arc a pass because it's unconventional in comparison to the other arcs. It serves as a little epilogue for the East Blue Saga. If I reached, the climax is when Luffy is about to be executed and he faces death with a smile, so I could say the theme is face fate with a smile. I could reach even more and say that Zoro and Sanji represent the anti-theme because they were freaking out. If I reached even more, I could say that Luffy's positivity allowed fate to favor him and break him free. But all of this is immense reaching, and none of that changes the lack of quotes. This gets an F2. No solid theme or anti-theme, no quotes, and no climax representing the theme. Stretch before you reach. In conclusion, early One Piece is very good at writing themes and climaxes for its arcs. Like I've said in the past, story arcs are like mini movies and should be treated as such. These are the grades of the themes and their deliveries. Flashback A, Alvida A, Zoro A-, Orangetown B, Syrup Village A-, Baratie A+, Arlong F, Loguetown F. First things first, this is why I always hold the big three in high regard, not because they're popular, but because they're well written. It seems like every time I become a better story analyst and learn a new writing technique, the big three have already utilized it. My hardcore fans will remember my plot cycle video. There, I came up with a great way of analyzing plot, but when I analyzed the big three's first volumes with it, they already had mastered it and were weaving several plot cycles together. And now there's this. I've gotten a solid grasp of writing themes in the recent years, but when I go to analyze the big three with these criteria, they've already mastered it. These guidelines may sound like something I just made up, but if you go back and rewatch well-written movies, you'll notice that a lot of them follow these rules. Those movies, and specifically Michael Arndt, a professional scriptwriter, pointing them out led me to this grading system. This leads me to my second point. You gotta reread and rewatch stories. I was on stream with Daffy and Triggered, and we brought this up. Both of them adore FMA, but when I told them that I rewatched it, and it wasn't exactly as good as I thought, they were surprised and one of them even agreed that you should rewatch shows. Personally, the first time I watch a story, I'm trying to decide whether I like it or not, and whether I should continue. Although part of my mind is partially analyzing the story, it's only a small part. But when I go back and recap, that's when I'm able to fully analyze the story. On top of that, as I get better as a writer, I need to go back and reevaluate story to see how my new strategies affect my perception of an old story. When I wrote my recent FMA video and brought up One Piece's themes, I didn't name the Zoro part because I didn't see a theme at the time. But then when I went back and read it slower, the theme was right there. Simply because it wasn't as obvious as the first two, I thought it didn't exist. So if I made that mistake, imagine how many other people are slipping up like that. Imagine how many other people haven't even sorted out the inner workings of what makes a good story, yet are out here saying this is peak and that is garbage. People really be tripping and trapping. Thank you for watching. Please like, comment, share, subscribe, and help me revolutionize the manga industry by buying my manga and spreading the word. All important links will be in the description.